Monday, Tanya, 11th of December 1. So we're going to talk today how usually everything in the physical world is a coarsened level of a higher divinity. However, for some reason, we said yesterday, there's the idea behind something, then there's the physical version of it, or the low, the physical version of a cup. And there's the idea of a cup. Whenever an idea comes down into the physical, it'll be a little bit diluted. It's a glimmer. However, in the study of the Torah law, even though it talks very physical things, it doesn't diminish its higher divine wisdom. Let's see. The reason for this transcendence is that the Chabad, which is the intellect of the lower world of Asiya, of the state of Neshama. So I should have a chart, but very short, right? There's Neshama, Ruach, Nefesh. Nefesh is the lowest, Ruach is higher, and then Neshama is the intellect. So the Neshama, the intellect of, I got to see this. So he's trying to explain today, it's a little bit hard today. The difference of divine light that progresses through all the worlds, where it gets concealed, the lower it goes down, versus the divine light in the halach. I'm reading outside, so you're not seeing it. The divine light inside the Torah laws, it's also in a physical reality. But for some reason, it doesn't conceal the divinity in the halacha. The divine essence remains, despite the fact that it has to go through all these tunnels to come into a physical form. The reason he's going to say is that the Chabad, the intellect of Asiya, which means is the presence of the divine of the lower world of action. It's also known as the neshama of the world. So the neshama of the physical world, we would call that the divinity of that world, which is also the intellect, the divine intellect of that world. That is the source of the life force of the intellect, the Chabad, that goes down into the levels of the lower, of the Nefesh and the Ruach. Okay. So basically, divine light is going to be encapsulated in the term wisdom, because wisdom is really the most transcendent part of the human. So too in the cosmos, we said the intellect of a world is its highest state of being, its highest source, its intellectual existence, versus offshoots where it's coming into more emotional or physical reality in the lower world. So in the physical world, there's intellect, but it's creating an emotional reality, and then from there a physical reality. But the Chachma, page 74. However, the Chabad, the intellect, Chabad's an acronym for Chachma Bina Das, the intellect of the laws, with the rationales that are in Malchut of Bria and Yetzira, because divine wisdom is rooted in higher worlds, in the Malchut of those higher worlds. The wisdom, so basically Torah is coming from another world. We call that Bria Yetzira, whatever, higher worlds. But it also has some sort of, process of intellect coming into receptacle. Malchut is the receptacle, upon which are dependent all the rationales of the commandments. the rationales, for example, the positive commandments depend on the 5 attributes of kindness of Zah. And the rationales of the prohibitions and the 5 attributes of severity. Therefore, even when they descend to be clothed in created beings, they are in Malchut of Bria Tzira, of the specific godly state of Neshama, which is the vessel of Atzilut, but not the degrees of Ruach and Nefesh. The rationales do not vest themselves in creation. They're still kind of more translucent pipelines to God's wisdom. I don't understand this 100%, so I'm doing my best.
It's a tricky one.
Now, though the Chabad of Bria Tzira, of the state of Neshama, by far transcend Malchut of Bria Tzira, of the state of Neshama, meaning the intellect of the higher world, Bria Tzira, are obviously higher than the Malchut. Malchut is the lowest level, it's the receptacle. Still, that wisdom of the Chabad of Bria Tzira are the source for Chabad of Bria Tzira of the state of Nefesh Ruach, namely the angels. So, I'm trying to. There's no constriction or concealment in divine wisdom. I'm just reading something quickly. Very interesting. So, I mean, we're reading the words, but just to summarize what we said is essentially the difference of, if God is in everything, why is the Torah holier than a rock, right? Like, God's everywhere. God's in the Torah. God's in a rock. What's the difference?
Well, the words are failing you when you tell me that God's in a rock. God created.
Isn't God create? Well, God's energy somehow is creating a rock. So, right?
Right.
So isn't God in the? So you have to say God's in a rock. God to some degree, causes, and is somehow the rock is part of God too, right? Somewhat. Do we say that?
No, I see where you're going, but I don't know where you're going to go with it. What?
So the thing he's saying is like this: that there's a big difference of the way the Torah comes into the world and everything else comes into the world. Everything else comes in the light of God. The infinite light encloses itself. Encloses means you have to, when you want to do a sales pitch to somebody, to let's say a Japanese customer, you have to enclose it in their language and culture, right? You can't just do your thing. You have to take the idea and you have to go to your Japanese, client and tell him what it is. So whenever you're enclosing it, there's a certain level of concealment because you're trying to make it fathomable to a different entity than yourself. How much more so with God's infinite light? Infinite light cannot be understood and comprehended and by anything, any finite thing. So it has to constantly enclose itself. It has to hide itself. It has to give greater concealment and only little glimmers to create what we call different existence. But the Torah is the divine will. What does it mean? Is the divine will? It's God's will. It's God's will that a person puts on tefillin, and it's God's will tefillin exists somewhere in God's in a spiritual level. So it's almost like it's what we call it's a passageway. It's not like it's just coming down direct. So yeah, you have Torah the way it is in a physical version. There's Torah the way it is in a heavenly version. They learn Torah, in heaven. What is it? It's all the divine. It's all God's will. It's not coming to present to you. Its goal is not only to present to you what should you do. It's revealing to you an inner a glimpse into Hashem's inner mind.
Wow.
And that inner mind is infinite, so it exists on different planes. It's like it comes down the stairs. Every step, it's in this step, it's in that step. It could be in different packaging, but it's not. The packaging is not the point. The packaging is just is a ram is almost like an afterthought. It's just because the divine wisdom is everywhere, can exist on every level, on that level. Something like that. So he says another point is the purpose of mitzvah ultimately is not to create a physical world. It's ultimately to rectify or make a healthy operating system of even the highest world. When we do a mitzvah, you're bringing light into the vessels of Atzilut. So what it's saying is that everything in creation is ultimately has to be hidden in order to create lower and lower levels. But the Torah is not about creating something. It's about revealing, or it's an expression of God's infinite wisdom in every level.
Wow.
So therefore, there's no concealment. So when you learn a very pedestrian halacha, right, a very simple halacha, like when you hold the Torah, when the person takes the Torah, everybody should follow the Torah, or whatever the laws and the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch are. So it's very simple. You take the Torah, or it says you should eat an apple and say a blessing on it. So it's about an apple because an apple comes from a tree. So you want to give thanks because of a specific category. So it's very logical, but it's not limited to the logic. It's really a glimpse of God's wisdom on this level, even on this level. Then he says this technical thing here. I'm just going to finish up. This is not a question at all. For in truth, the angels and souls that are created of the Chabad, the intellect of the higher worlds of Bria Tzira, on page 75, only of a drop drawn from Chabad of the Neshama to the attribute of Yesod of Zah, and then transmit to Nukva. From there, the souls and angels went forth in a state of birth. In other words, Torah is an emanation of God's wisdom. But souls and angels are kind of like a child of God's wisdom, which means there's a certain level of separateness. A child is separate from the parent. For even if it is proposed that they're creating the radiance, the vessel, Nukva Tzilut, Nevertheless, they themselves descend into B'riyat Yasiyah and become neshama to them. But the essence of Chabad of neshama extends in the 6 directions of Zeran, Bnei Nukva, and there they are the 6 orders of Mishnah and the Gemara. Interesting idea. In other words, your soul is very holy, but it is not. It's not a passageway. It's not only a glimpse into God. It's a godly child. It's a child of God, meaning it has a lot of properties of God. It has a lot of things, but it's its own entity. Versus the Torah is not its own entity. The Torah is God's wisdom. So he says an interesting thing that we know there's 6 sfirot, the 6 emotions in the sfirot, and that's how the light passes down to Malchut, to the receptacle. So it's interesting. 6 is also the 6 directions: north, east, west, south, up and down. And this progression is not like a birth, but it's the actual light. And that's why there's 6 sections of the Mishnah. There's 6, the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, the 6 orders of the Mishnah, which the Talmud is based on. This is because this is the Talmud, and the Mishnah is ultimately the oral Torah. And so it basically becomes a revelation throughout the world of the divine wisdom. All right.
Go ahead.